Hi, I'm Warren Sprouse, and you're on the Bible Forum. This is Sunday, September 9th, 2018. This past week, we lost a beloved artist, Aretha Franklin, and they had a funeral for her. Reverend Jasper Williams was the featured speaker. No doubt she wanted him to speak. And he asked the question, do black lives matter? And then he proceeded to say, let me answer like this. No, black lives do not matter. Black lives will not matter. Black lives ought not matter. Black lives should not matter. Black lives must not matter. Until black people start respecting black lives and stop killing ourselves, black lives can never matter. Did I tell you he was a black man? Now apparently he's being attacked by the black community and others for undermining the black community and their effort to be taken seriously, the effort to be seen as equal partners in society. And for his part, he's shocked. He couldn't, how did you take it that way? He said, quote, I was trying to show that the movement now is moving and should move in a different direction. What we need, he said, is to create respect among ourselves. Aretha is the person with the song, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. She laid out for us, he said, what we need to be as a race within ourselves. We need to show each other that. We need to show each other respect. That's the reason I said what I said. Williams went on to say that his remarks were especially pointed in response to those people who spoke at Franklin's funeral and invoked discussions about the civil rights movement. You see, these old-time civil rights guys, that's all they got. Everything of note, everything of value, anything that makes them worth anything happened before 1980. He went on to say, anybody who thinks black America is all right as we are is crazy. We're not all right. There's a lot of change that needs to occur. And that this change needs to come from within us. Nobody can give us things to eliminate where we are. We have to change from within ourselves. It's ludicrous, he said, for the church not to be involved. The church is the only viable institution we have in the African American community. We must step up and turn our race around. As he continued in this discussion, he said it's a message that does not resonate within the activist community. The popular, noisy members want R-E-S-P-E-C-T to be given to them for no reason other than they have been abused for generations. I didn't do that. You probably didn't do that. No one you know in the last 50 to 75 years has done this. It was the 16th and 18th century slave owners who did it. It was a fledgling U.S. government that did it. by not addressing the issue. When they formed this new government, that was one of the issues that they wanted to take care of, but their reasoning was, not now. Wait until we are a stronger union. And that did happen 80 years later. And it was 19th and 20th century Democrats who were doing this to black people in the South. Probably one of the worst things to happen to a post-slavery black population was Lyndon Johnson's Great Society. Lyndon Johnson, a Southern Democrat from the old school. Johnson opened the bank to black folks, giving them everything they needed without them having to work for it. The poor white got their share as well, but more so the black community. And that great society ruined the black community. The building block of society was destroyed. The Great Society created enormous numbers of people, black and white, now almost totally dependent upon the government. In the fallout, the black family was torn apart. Women didn't need a man who wasn't going to work or be helpful. The Great Society glorified the idea of a dependent group within the greater culture, a group that didn't have to work, primarily because they couldn't find work. A group that didn't need a man in the house. A group that was free to establish their own culture, never having to integrate into the greater culture. It was a government plan to once again enslave people, only this time it would be economically and socially. You do realize it were Southern Democrats who ran the slavery program in the South and kept black folks unequal. On into the 60s, 1960s, black people living different than you and I. Only we didn't know that up here in the North. I didn't. I was a child in the 1950s. I didn't know any of this was going on. It wasn't going on in my neighborhood. Black and white together. Everything was the same. We went to school together, went to church together, we went to eat together, we went to dances together, basketball game, played on the... I didn't see this separation. My parents took me on a trip from New Jersey to South Carolina. My family's from South Carolina. We did this 2 or 3 times in the summer. This particular year, we got on the Sep't ferry. The Sep't ferry went from Delaware, I believe it was, to Virginia Beach. Might have took off from Maryland, I can't remember. But it was about an hour, 45 minutes, an hour and 45. It was a long trip. Long enough I got a hot dog. And I'm on this ferry boat, and I got to go to the bathroom. So we go downstairs, and we go to where the lavatories are. And there are 2 drinking fountains. One says, whites only. The other, black only. I was about 11 years old. I looked at my dad. I said, "What's that?" And he began to explain to me what the South was like in the 1950s, run by Democrats. What used to be a counterculture has now corrupted the mainstream culture, primarily through our children, creating an alternative lifestyle. an alternative language, an alternative value system. Look at the average musical group. They dress and act in the most childish, foolish, and outrageous ways possible. Their music, by and large, is little more than a means to captivate their audience's senses, stimulate them. Most of us can't understand what they're saying. Yet every young person, every human being, whoever they may be, gathered to watch these beloved artists, they know all the words. I can't even understand them. And they know the moves. I know. It was the same thing in the 1940s with Frank Sinatra. Only it wasn't. Sinatra's swooning fans were young girls initially coached and or paid to act that way. And Sinatra was singing ballads. These people are just making noise. The rhythms are deliberately sensual, repetitive, tribal, and loud. And like video games, they're addictive. Now, you can't cultivate family values when your children are routinely spending time in a mosh pit. You can't cultivate godly values when every electronic device known to mankind is in your child's bedroom and they believe they have rights. Watch the interviews. By and large, parents are at a loss as to what to do about any of this. Those same parents have put a 30-inch TV screen on the bedroom wall, not only for TV, but for video games. These same parents are not in the home 40, 50 hours out of every week, both of them out working full time. These same parents have bought all sorts of electronic devices and games. These same parents think they're helping when they, quote, understand what these children are going through. And these same parents view family as a democracy. And what these children are being exposed to is largely evil on every level. The music is sensual. It's not healthy. Something young people are very ill-equipped to handle. The comedy is lascivious and disgusting, becoming more so every year. The dramas are emotionally and morally degrading. The video games are addictive, deliberately so, and dangerous to their little brains. And the isolation works against normal social development. Today, music, language, fashions, movies, TV programming, public displays of crude, rude, and disgusting behavior is what passes for legitimate dissent. I can do any of the above if I'm making a statement. I'll go out in the middle of Times Square, stripped down naked, hold my sign, and get your attention. What we're not making is a family. A family with constructive values. Values that could be passed to the next generation. And that used to happen. Now it can't happen, because the next generation has a whole different set of values. There's no continuity in the culture. Values that would build a stronger society. The younger generation of today has been raised by the grandchildren of the 60s radicals. Grandchildren whose parents thought young people should be more free. Grandchildren whose biological and chemical systems may very well have been damaged by the drugs their parents were taking. Can you say Woodstock? raising their children to be individuals in their own right, not realizing children need patterning in good behavior and at least 15 straight years of consistent immersion in those productive values if they're going to survive. And those same parents are wondering why their children are so strange, so distant, so preoccupied with meaninglessness. The baby boomer generation is now old. They are retiring. Perhaps with medical issues. Drugs do that to people. And their children, their grandchildren have no time for them. The only help they're getting is coming from the government, the Great Society. Reality here is that devoted children and grandchildren are better caretakers than the government. What we're watching unfold is a working definition of short-sightedness and stupidity, brought to you by liberal, selfish, godless men and women who made it all look like they cared. Did you grow up as a child of the baby boomer? Or maybe the grandchild of the children the baby boomers raised? It used to be societies were strong, family made it so, and they repeated that strength. In the last 50 years, it's been fragmenting. My great-grandchildren probably do not have a chance. Short of God's mercy, not a chance. And they won't even see it coming. It'll seem normal. Because we've redefined normal, haven't we? You normal?